What is up, hustlers? Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the No Excuses Show. My name is John Danes, and I'm your host. Today, I have a very, very special guest for you, Mr. Judge Graham. Judge, thank you for coming on the show.
Boom. Thanks, brother. I'm excited to be here, man.
It's going to be great. It's going to be a good episode, value packed. So for the people that are coming in that might not be familiar with you, just give a basic bio on who you are and kind of some of the things that you've done, and we'll expand on that later.
Yeah, totally cool, man. Serial entrepreneur through and through. I'm a real freaking practitioner, right? I mean, nothing I have is theory. It's from the school of hard knocks, the school of growing and scaling, of failing, right? I talk failure as a part of success. So have been selling things since I was a little bitty boy, from pencils to watches to beepers to candy to glow sticks. So my whole life I've sold things, right? And I've been fascinated with the art of selling. I've been fascinated with the idea of making money and then manifesting that idea into actually real money. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people are born with that. You know, a lot of people say you can learn it. I believe you can learn it, but I also believe there's something that was born in me that wanted to produce at that level, that wanted to sell, that wanted to be an entrepreneur. So fast forward, go to college, TCU, go Frogs. I got some stuff probably behind my football jerseys on the wall here. You can't see it. I played college football for a little bit.
Awesome.
Quickly understood I was a backup guy and I had no chance or business going to the NFL. So I decided to focus on school. And at the time, school was it was called e-business. It was a core competencies in computer science, finance, and marketing, right? And this was, late 90s, early 2000s. And so I created my first company with my best friend from college, web design and development companies, just sold websites, grew that company large, almost didn't graduate, did end up graduating, but that company failed, right?
Can I interject one thing?
Yeah.
What were you guys building on back then? Like, was that straight code or were you building on templates?
Yeah, straight code, dude.
Awesome.
Nothing existed back then, like WordPress or anything. So, I mean, this was like, PHP, ASP.NET, HTML, no HTML5 back then.
That's awesome.
So grew that business, build out space. I mean, a beautiful business, won a bunch of awards. Wow. But the problem was it was project-based. And I don't know, you don't have any of my books, do you?
No, I do not.
Okay, so I've written a couple books, Mastering Recurring Revenue. I don't have it in front of me. I should get it. But the reason I wrote that book is because this particular business was project-based, okay? Right. And so what happens is every time I sell a website, you've got to deliver it. You have a cash flow problem. Right. But guess what? The more I sold, the bigger space, the more equipment, the more debt I had to incur, the more staff I had. And so all of a sudden your payroll and your expenses are $100,000 plus a month. Every month you've got to refill that kitty.
Right.
Plus you're dealing with cash flow issues.
Right.
So anyhow, that company failed because we grew too fast. I mean, literally it failed because we outgrew ourselves and couldn't manage the cash flow and was project-based. Dark place in my life. You had to dig deep, and I decided I'll never feel this way again. So every business I built from there on, I had a recurring revenue system in it, right? The predictability in my revenue, which made me write that book. And so the next agencies, fast forward, were digital marketing and media. Everything was contractual. I had retainers. I had media commissions. I had margins. I had markup. I had steady flow of income, and I grew in those companies and sold them for 8 and 9 figures.
Yeah, 100%. That's so great. I definitely hear what you're saying. I have friends that are doing websites or building funnels or whatever the case may be. And I know a lot of people can relate with not having recurring revenue. That's why I love the agency business model so much, because a lot of people, they hit what I see with a lot of people. They sell this one-time thing to all their network, build up a 6.
They're done.
And then they're done. They have nowhere else to sell it to because everybody that knows their name has consumed their product. And now they've built up all these one-time payments. They've made some money, but now it's not sustainable.
Listen, the thing I can tell you, right, and this is great for the audience, whoever's listening to this, right, the idea – sorry, I'm looking at an email here too. So the idea for the audience and John to grasp here is a light bulb went off for me and I quit selling service or product. I sold revenue.
Right.
Okay, now listen, this is important. You give me $1, I'm going to give you 5. When you can do that and you're predictable and you're generating leads and sales, and it equates to that 1 to 5 or 5 to 1 or whatever the ratio is, it's almost impossible to get fired.
Right.
For the agency people out there listening to this, when you start focusing on creative and subjective bullshit, which what it is, right? When things become subjective, you get fired. When things don't have a monetary value or return, you get fired, so your clients don't become sticky. So you've got to create something that not only is providing value, but is generating revenue.
100%. I'm really excited to get into talking about selling the agency, and it goes right with the point that you just made, because you'll hear a lot of people say, well, you can't sell a service-based business they sell for very low multiples. So like, you hear the argument all the time. And that's the point you just made. That's why I want to spring off into the topic, because that's the point you just made. But to your point, you're selling revenue. You're not even really selling the service. You're producing revenue for companies. So
I would tell anybody out there that even owns, I even think the word agency is a bad word. Right? I mean, call it, whatever it is, the company, and then have a tagline that I get into. But yeah, dude, listen, any company is valuable and is sellable. Okay. There's a multitude of things, we can get into it. But if you have predictability and scale in your revenue and low customer concentration and sticky customers, you now have a valuable asset that you can sell.
Right. 100%. Yeah, it's a great point. I'm looking forward to getting more into this. So first of all, you're pretty deep into the digital marketing still today. You're in the DMM, you're seeing all these guys and everything that they're doing. What changes have you seen through the progression of the digital marketing space? And what do you think is still really working today that you did that's still going to work for,
So this is the best time to be in this space, period. Okay. Because technology has become, technology used to be a barrier of entry because it was very expensive, or if you wanted to build things at scale, it required a lot of staff and a lot of capital, right? So there's pros and cons with that. Now, anybody, you can be in their mom's basement and they've got a laptop and access to ClickFunnels or WordPress and a Google account and a Facebook account.
Right.
You can start creating content. You can create marketing campaigns. You can create funnels. So opportunity, the barrier of entry is easier to get into.
Right.
Okay. So that's a huge checkbox. The speed, right? My initial book, and if you don't, drop it in the comments for me when you do
I'll
that.
put it in the description for sure.
Scale with Speed, scalewithspeed.com. Listen, to survive right now, you've got to harness that power of speed. So the technology and everything is allowing these entrepreneurs to move fast and get results fast. But the problem is you have to sell something different than everybody else.
Correct.
Okay. So that's the negative of this. The positive is low cost of entry, amazing technology. You can move fast. It has the ability to scale. But how are you doing? What is your niche and what is your offering that's different than the other 85,000, marketing experts that are on Facebook?
Right. Right. And I think that you will probably agree with this as well. When you were scaling your two businesses, you probably had more of a tough time informing business owners about the business model than we do today. Like, I talk to guys today and they're like, I know I need it. People are actually informed of how it works, and we've educated the market on the power of digital marketing. And so I feel like you're saying, it's the best time to get into it is now, because people actually understand, that they need it.
Yeah, and listen, digital's not going anywhere, right? I mean, that's what excites me. I mean, it's just going to become more prolific, right? What's the next Facebook? What's the next tactic? I think if everybody does the following two things at their core: one, what is the niche that you're going to serve, and be true to that, right? And then two, you can never quit learning and never unappreciate the power of speed and results.
Right.
Okay. And then when you start selling in those ideas, you can create something special.
100%. Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about scaling, because, like you said, when we first started, one company had hundreds of staff, The other one had thousands. So what were the key things that you did to scale so big on your next run at it? Like, what were some of the agency things, the things that you did in your agency to scale like a massive company?
Listen, dude, it comes down to one thing, okay? It is culture. It is fucking culture, growth culture. Listen, you are in the business. If you're trying to grow a real digital agency or service-based company, you need people. That's it. Your product is people. And once you can retain and attain the best people in whatever it is you're doing within that service, you have the ability to service clients at the highest level. You now have the ability to win clients at the highest level. So for me, it's all about growth culture, right? And how I do that, John, is I fundamentally believe in core values. And when I say core values, what I mean by that is every organization should have 4 core values. Not 5, not 6, not 3, not 2, 4. Those 4 are words, simple words: fearless, curious, creative, strategic, whatever your words are. And then you have to empower your staff against those core values, right? And then you have to explain to the customer or the prospect what those core values mean to them. So let me give you an example. You're looking behind me here, like, let's see if you see that little Hulk? See that little?
Yeah, Hulk.
Okay. So that's fearless was one of my core values. And the Hulk embodied that for our organization. So when you walked into my Dallas office or my Portland office, you were greeted by a 12 or 14-foot incredible Hulk. Like literally, we bought one from the set of Universal Studios, 2 of them. We did them in an auction to support the troops. I'm a huge advocate of our veterans. So with that, you came into the office and you were greeted by Hulk, and then you talk about fearless, what it means for the customer, what it means for the employee, how you make all your decisions around these core values. So back to the original question, culture equates to scale. I mean, there's a multitude of things, but if you want to scale a real business, you got to have great people. The only way you're going to attain and retain great people is through having an amazing culture.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great advice. I think that if you can have, and I interviewed a good friend of mine, Dylan Kivo, and he said the exact same thing. If you can make people excited to work for you, that's when everything changes. Like if people show up, and I interviewed Grant Cardone a few episodes ago, and that was one of the main things he said as well. You know, if you show up and people are excited to be with you, they love the environment that they work in, it's a game changer.
Yeah, but you also, what are you giving to them, right? I mean, this thing, people want purpose, man.
Right.
You want to freaking one of my companies was voted always best places to work. Mashable, if you're familiar with Mashable. Yeah, of
course.
So Google it. It was years ago, but we ranked, our office space was in the top 5 most creative in the world. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Yeah, one of the most creative spaces in the world.
Wow.
Up there with Google, Facebook. I mean, these big companies, and my little company was there with them. But why? Because I created a culture. We had treadmill desks, we had yoga rooms, we had dogs, we had a full bar, we had foosball tables. We created an environment, and we had snacks. We brought in breakfast every day. We brought in lunch every day, because we understood that if our people were happy, they were compensated correctly, and we were an extension of where they wanted to be, they would spend more time there and they would deliver better for our clients. They're, yielding results for everybody.
100%. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people, slack at. And that's a big difference that you see in, decent sized businesses and massive businesses. They don't invest into their team. They don't really care about how their team is feeling, you can just see that a lot of business owners are pretty selfish with their team, and then it comes back to bite them. So that's a great piece of advice. I like that a lot.
They don't have a growth mindset.
Exactly. It's a small mindset. Exactly right. Let's talk about a stat. And I have we've interviewed a ton of awesome, agency owners. And I always ask every single person this question. Well, let's talk about establishing and finding a niche that people can get into. What are some tips that you have on that? And how important do you think that is?
It's fucking everything.
I love it.
It is. Listen, go an inch wide and a mile deep. Okay. And why I say this is anything, if you become the expert at it, you win. Okay. So if you say, well, I'm going to become the expert at Facebook ads, bullshit. Like that, I mean, it's too broad,
Right.
right? You know, I use the example all the time of insurance agents. Okay. If an insurance agent came to me and said, Judge, I'm struggling to grow my business, I'd say, okay, well, what do you sell? I sell life insurance, auto, home, umbrella policies, you know, and I also sell horse insurance.
Right. Everything.
Horse insurance, that's interesting, right? How do you become the best in horse insurance, right? And when you go niche, a couple things happen. One, I talk a lot about market leader positioning. If you become the guy known for horse insurance, guess what? You have videos around it. You have white papers around it. You have blog content around it. You have case studies around it. You have the best staff to facilitate horse insurance. Now, I use horse insurance because it's a silly example,
Right.
but it'll help people remember you've got to find a niche within a niche. And then you've got to go an inch wide, a mile deep, and freaking own that, baby. I mean, content, strategy, delivery, people, market leader positioning, content. Live within the niche, and you'll find the money. Niche will get you rich.
Agreed. So what would you tell somebody to, you know, when they're first starting out, would you say test a couple different ones, find out what you enjoy and what you produce the most results for, and then just go deep on that one? Because I think a lot of people can end up undercutting themselves if they just start their agency, they're ready to roll, and then they say real estate agents, and then they haven't really tried or tested anything else out.
Yeah,
would you kind of agree with that?
There's two parts to that question. So if you're established and you're making revenue, I respect that, and you can't just immediately cold turkey off, right? So and we'll get to how do you find the niche, but once you've found the niche, and let's say you're an existing business, in order to wean off your current broad business, you just take inbounds at that point and facilitate what you have, but then everything external becomes about prospecting the niche. And then at some point, your revenue will change where it's more towards the niche and less of whatever it used to be.
Okay.
So that's how you actually build yourself into the niche, right? Because if you just cut off straight, you know, immediately, you could go out of business, right? So I appreciate that. But how you find the niche is, you know, I look for pain, right? So how I've been successful in all my companies was pain, right? I would go out to the market and I would understand, okay, where are my core competencies and skill sets? I'd write those down. Pop, 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 pop. Okay. What are the big guys doing that are making all the money? Okay. Pop, 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 pop. Write all that down. Okay. Now, where does the client sit in all this, or the customer, right? Where's their pain point? So an example I can give you with my company back in the day, big clients like Jiffy Lube, right, had multiple agencies, and they would have a web design and development agency, and then they would have a digital media agency. Okay. And the client, the poor client, the CMO, was frustrated because when he wanted results, he'd go to the web agency and they'd say, oh, well, the media sucks. Well, he'd go to the media agency and they would say, oh, well, the website sucks and I'm tracking this or whatever. Guess what? Pain. So I figured out there's pain there. So if I come in and create a model that creates cost efficiencies, speed, and scale, and bring both of those things together and deliver ROI and accountability in one neck to choke, I'm solving a pain that the customer has.
Right.
So that's how you find the niche, man. You figure out, what are you great at? Go look at the competition. What does the customer need? Where's the pain? And then how do you solve that within a niche?
Right. I love it. It's great advice too. And I have a friend who he services roofing companies, and he's 18 years old. His company's doing about $60K a month in retainers. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, man, you've collected so much data, learned buying habits A to Z. If you wanted to go start a roofing company tomorrow, you'd put everybody else out of business.
Yeah, but what he needs to do is stay in the lane. Exactly. Right now, he needs white papers around that. He needs video case studies.
Right.
He needs to go speak at roofing conventions.
Right.
Right now, like when I talk about the inch wide and the mile deep, you just keep mining.
Yeah. You
keep going lower and lower and lower and lower, and you get so deep in that, you become the expert.
Right. 100%. It's great advice. I love it. So you've obviously built up an awesome personal brand. I want to credit you on that. You've done a great job. Everything looks good. Branding's on point. You're on every platform. How much have you leveraged that, and how much has that helped you expand? Because I mean, I just got introduced to you a couple weeks ago, and Jeremy had told me some things about you, and I was like, man, I got to check this guy out. And then I just ran through everything in about 30 minutes, and I'm like, he's done a fantastic job at branding himself. So how have you seen that grow and help you grow your business?
Thanks, man. You know what? This has been a journey for me. So it all started with when I sold the last agency. I wanted to do a legacy piece that I'd have for the rest of my life, and that was the book, right? So I'd never written a fucking book. So I go to Google, how do you write a book, right? How do you get a publisher? And so I just started, right? And then I literally went to one of the 10Xs, and I met Grant backstage, which I thought was cool or whatever. But then I met his agent, and his agent was like, oh, I think you're a pretty cool potential brand. Let us help you get a book deal and all this. And so it kind of took off that way. And, honestly, I've just been committed to content, right? Like you go to my YouTube, I probably have 250 videos now, right? I've written now 3 books, and I've been doing this for a year and a half. And what I find interesting is I finally feel like I'm ready to get the following and the personality brand that I want to build.
Right.
But a couple things. One, I'm the real deal. Like you can Google me, like I've done. So I'm established. I have credibility, right? Which is important, I think, in this space because there's so many wannabes out there. Okay. And 2, I wanted to pay my dues in this new personality guru space.
Right.
So I've done that by writing 3 books.
Right.
Like all my books are in the airport. I've got a real publisher, and now I've built all this content. So I finally feel like I'm ready for have this thing to take off.
100%. Yeah. I feel that a lot of people focus because it's such a hot word now, personal branding. And I think that so many people focus on it, and it's taken them, it takes a lot of time away from their business. And kind of to your point, once you've done it, you have more to share. You're going to have more people that follow you because you actually have valid information to share. And, everybody's on social for a different reason, but I just see a lot of people that I feel like are wasting energy just putting out 5 Instagram posts a day or 4 podcasts. Like, go build a business, then you'll actually have valid, information to share.
Yeah. So one thing you keep saying, and this isn't to correct you, it's just it's an idea, right?
Yeah.
You keep saying you're giving great advice. So I want to give a piece of what I call counsel.
Okay.
People that say, hey, this is advice, usually it's bad.
Okay.
Right? So think about this. If you went out and you're wanting to become an astronaut, right? You wouldn't want to go talk to your mom and dad about that, or your brother or whatever, because it's well-intended. Right. But you would want to seek somebody that's been to the moon. Right. So the idea here, and again, it's a silly analogy, but I think actually Jeremy surfaced this for me, and I've been using it. It's this idea that right now there's so many fake gurus out there, and there's so many people giving what I would call advice. And even though it's probably well-intended, if they haven't done it,
means nothing.
It's not counsel, right? So like if you were in legal trouble, you're not going to go to your brother who works at Burger King. You're going to go to an attorney.
Exactly.
If you get brain cancer, you should go to a brain surgeon, right? Same thing. So just it's an interesting way to start thinking about it, because I think right now we're in a time where everybody is just spewing out content and claiming that they're gurus. I think people should step back and go, why am I listening to this? What is the value? And is it advice or is it counsel? Right.
Okay. I like that. It's a good reframing. I like that a lot. So let's talk a bit about self-education. I know you have this Sell the Agency coming out with Jeremy, and I'm super excited. If anybody wants to check that out, that's going to be in the description below. You guys have been talking about this and preparing it for a while now. So let's talk about, self-education, how important you have, seen self-education to be, and kind of how much you value it, and touch a little bit of about Sell Your Agency with Jeremy as well.
Yeah, I think it's huge, man. I wish I would have done more of it, frankly. Because I would have been less pain and not as burned. But again, it's back to advice versus counsel,
Right.
Okay. So you can go at something, whatever you want to do in life. If you want to grow and sell an agency, let's just use this as an example because it's relevant.
Mhm.
You can try it all on your own.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that, right? Or you can ask your wife, your husband, your partner, or your sister what they think. But until you seek out somebody and command their attention or get their knowledge, you're doing yourself an injustice on time, right? I believe if you understand how to compress time, you win in almost anything.
Wow.
And knowledge becomes an equalizer on how to compress time and create more revenue. Mm-hmm. So I think mentorship is huge. I think educational things done correctly are huge. If you take a course or read a book or follow somebody on YouTube, and if you just get one thing, it could change the course. I can tell you right now, my books, there's 2 books I love. Mastering the Rockefeller Habits and a book called Rework. Those 2 books changed the course of my life. 2 books. Right? And I just took a couple concepts from it and then ran with them, and it changed the course of my life. So do I believe reading, mentorship, courses, education is important? Hell yeah, it's huge. I wish I would have done more of it. I do more of it now.
Right. Yeah, it's very important. And I think it excels and speeds up your growth, and like these digital mentors, I used to always call Jeremy my digital mentor until I met him. And then I finally got to meet him a couple months ago, which was cool. But, we have books that are written by people who are billionaires, net worth billionaires, like Principles, Ray Dalio, The Art of the Deal.
Yeah.
Love him or hate him, but it's a great book.
Totally.
And it's just the age that we live in where we can access content from anybody on the internet, especially people that are highly achieved, that it's fact checkable too. There's a lot of stuff going on in the whole internet marketing space right now, but there's real people out there that are actually putting out real content, trying to help people. And I think that we're at a huge advantage in today's, society.
A huge advantage. And what's great, the internet has allowed the niche to happen. Like, so Sean Whalen, I don't know if you know who Sean Whalen is, in his book, he talks about, Google is free.
Right.
Like, you can type in, how do you build a spaceship? And Google fucking gives you the plans.
Right. Right.
So, anybody that believes they can't do something and doesn't have access to knowledge, that's just an excuse.
Right. I don't know what did this to a lot of people. Maybe it was the school system, but a lot of people seem they need to have their hand held throughout the process. You can learn from somebody. There's been people that have impacted my life and I've never met them. I've read their books. I've never talked to them. I've watched their YouTube videos. So I think that the idea of I need somebody with me is a complete lie. You don't need to go and sit in front of somebody every day to learn. There's this huge bookshelf behind me. You got a bunch of books behind you. We both have computers in front of us. To your point, Google's free. So I think that when a lot of people can kind of ditch the mindset of, I need somebody with me, because people hear the word mentor, they think, oh, this is some guy I meet with 4 times a week who talks to me about business and about life. But we got mentors online that, again, are free. So I think that's a really valid point and a way for people to.
What's interesting though is you'll never be successful. I'm not saying you, anybody,
right? No.
Until you commit. So I have this concept I talk about in it's all my books. I think I mention it. And it's an old concept. It's called, burn the ships.
Yep.
Okay. So until I always picture this beautiful, this beautiful ocean, and there's this small island, and around the island is hundreds of thousands of miles of just water, and there's no land. And you're pulling up in this kick-ass pirate ship, for whatever reason, just cooler. And you get to the island and you anchor. Okay. So, and you get off on the island, but until you put gas on that ship and burn it to the ground, you're not committed.
Right.
You can always get off the island and get back on the ship. So whether it's mentorship or it's your business, what are you doing to commit? I mean, what's cool about some of this, paid mentorship is you're committing your hard-earned dollars, right? And so now you're more vested in committing to absorbing that content. Mm-hmm. Or if you're in a side hustle right now, but have a paying job that covers the bills, until you fire yourself from that paying job, you're not committed yet to the side hustle.
Right.
So there has to be some sort of pain, in my opinion, in order to commit.
No, agreed. 100. It's a great point. Let's dive a little bit deeper into, the course with Jeremy, and what you guys are going to be covering in that. And I want to know maybe how you and Jeremy met as well, because it seems like you guys have got a pretty great dynamic relationship. So dive into that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I wanted to, at the time I got into this, I thought the hottest, personality brand out there was Grant. Right.
Yeah,
so
100%.
I did my research and I go, who's doing all Grant shit? It was Jeremy. And so I picked up the phone, I found the guy, I used Google, and I called him and we kicked off a relationship. And it just so happened that it's been great because, he's surfaced and taught me some of these kind of new school things. And I think I'm bringing him a lot of value on, what I've done. So it's been a great friendship, great partnership actually. So
awesome.
Yeah, Jeremy's a great guy, dude.
Yeah, he's a great man. I like him a lot.
He's been to my house once or I think twice. And then I just got back from, Miami at his penthouse. So that was cool too.
Yeah. You guys filmed the course on there. That's awesome. So in closing, you have anything you want to wrap it up with? This has been really fun. I felt like we flowed really well. It was a super great time. So what do you have to say in closing?
Nothing, man. I mean, anybody out there, struggling, my advice to you would be commit. Okay. You're never going to fulfill what you want in your life until you commit, right? I would seek mentorship. I would commit. I would get clarity on who you are, what you do, why you do it, and what proof do you have. I would figure out what your niche is, and I would make sure that you commit to becoming successful, right? I mean, sell revenue, right? If you're delivering for your clients, they're going to stick around. And I think if anybody watching this is interested in, scaling a business or, specifically an agency, and with the desire to have an exit, you should check out the workshop we just put together at selltheagency.com.
Going to be in the description below, along with all of Judge's links. Judge, I appreciate you coming on. This has been super fun.
Yeah, man, it's been awesome. I appreciate it.
Of course. No excuses, everybody.